Hey Ryan, why don't you pull up Amazon's margins real quick?
Well, I'd have more of a grin on my face than Stephen Hawking on Epstein's Island.
I'm off as a smug cock when you said that.
Wow, fiscal philosophy, you're not very smart at all. You screw up, cash flow kings. Guys. Dissector, you are an idiot.
Hello, everybody. It's Saturday. It's 8 p.m. Eastern. And on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you could be doing a plethora of things. You could perhaps be landscaping, earning your wealth, getting your income up. Mm-hmm. You could be going to gay bars looking for women with a certain person in a red Coca-Cola hat or a white Tesla hat. You could be in Las Vegas on the Gargle. You could be doing a lot of things. What else could you be doing, Fiscal?
Well, yeah, that's pretty remarkable. You know, not showing up to the Cash Flow Kings every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern is sort of like going to a gay bar and asking if there's any women around.
I know.
Think about it.
It's true.
But really, you could be off doing Lord knows what out there on them streets. You could be
harsh life.
You could be smoking the crack. I've heard that people do that, and that it's very addictive. It's very bad. You could be out there eating cats and dogs.
Oh man, this is going to be a great show. I keep forgetting so much has happened this week. We're just going to there's going to be so many jokes this show.
Eating cats and dogs. You could be coming up with concepts of a plan to eat cats and dogs, perhaps. I don't know. Some people say that that really it don't matter as long as you're here on the Cash Flow Kings every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
It's true, everybody. And I apologize. We are 15 minutes late today, but on the plus side of it, you get a weekly recap tomorrow, and we can go live for longer. It was a bit of a dilemma I was in, and I was getting my net worth up, and there's no way to get around it. So the Cash Flow Kings delayed 15 minutes, but you get an extra long show and a weekly recap tomorrow. But yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Lots have happened this week. College is a scam. I've learned, Fiscal. College is a scam. I have a diabolical story to share with the chat once everybody gets in here. It's disgusting. That's all I have to say. Ooh. You can't hide from it. It's actually disgusting. But welcome in. Let's see who's in the chat. Of course, Shamir is in here. Gay bars. Yep, that's true. I have an amazing clip to play too. And trust me, we have it all set up. Yep. This is what you could be. Yeah, you could be smoking meth through a high tide pipe at a Trump rally. It's full circle here.
You could be.
You got to be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. I don't. And I don't want to know. You know what? I have no comment to respond to you, Eric. Jonathan Judas is here. It's Jonathan Judas's birthday.
Happy birthday, Jonathan. By the way, I mean, you know, he could be right, though, because, I mean, you did just start college, and that's when most people experiment. No comment, though, right?
Yeah, no comment. Trust me, I was landscaping. I wasn't at the local vape store, or I wasn't up in Niagara Falls at one of the Canna Cabana and the High Tide stores getting a new bong.
All right, but I'll trust you.
But before we get to tonight's episode, I'm introducing something new, and Fiscal does not know about this. And the new thing that we're going to do is, since we are trying to get the channel members up, we're trying to do these few exclusive live streams. I don't know how I say this. We are going to be doing roast sessions. If we get one channel member at the end of every show, we're going to be doing roast sessions. You guys get 2 minutes to just go ham at me and Fiscal. Not the guests, though. Not the guests. Just me and Fiscal. One channel member. And it'll happen. But yeah, we're just trying to get that number up so we could do some more exclusives on there, because we don't want to, we do have a good amount of people right now, don't get me wrong, but we'd eventually like to have enough where it makes sense to be doing exclusive lives for you guys and stuff, because we're very good at communicating value, as a certain CEO would say.
Yep. You know, it's funny. I was actually watching a video on Chili's earlier, because they're owned by a publicly traded company, and
oh no!
what their CEO said, well, their revenue is actually way up, and their CEO said that providing value is the most important thing they can do for customers. Nothing about communicating value. It was actually about like offering value. That's interesting. An interesting dynamic.
What do you think Laxman is doing right now?
He's probably, that's a Tourette's guideline. Maybe for the after hours, I'll finish that thought for you.
What do you think about it?
No. I know exactly what I was gonna say, but we'd get the video would get demonetized if I finished the whole sentence. So,
well, speaking of getting demonetized, I think it's time we introduce our next guest, and we will let this clip do it because it's just funny and it's not related to him at all. But we're gonna play it still. First of many times tonight.
That's like going to a gay club and ask if there's any girls there. Get the F out of here, man. That's like going to a gay club and
that clip is just too great. I'm so happy that happened. Welcome in Blake Downer, reoccurring guest here on the show. And this is big because Blake will be on again in 2 weeks after episode 50 for the High Tide Roundtable Part 2 after the earnings report, which I believe is this week. Am I correct?
It should be coming out this Monday.
There we go. Monday.
So exciting times.
We get our little predictions in. I'm so excited. No, I'm actually up a lot on High Tide right now. I think I'm up like 13%, $36, a lot in this economy.
I tend to view short-term price action as noise. So I try not to let it get to my head too much when it's up, $2.50 a share and stuff like that. And, I'm patting myself on the back. And I also try not to beat myself up too much when it's down at like 165. Something
Would it
I
make you happy if I told you I bought at 180?
Oh, you're doing well. Yeah, that'll do you well.
Yeah, he's doing better than I am with that one.
Yeah.
Where'd you get in Fiscal?
So
15,
I'm actually looking at my account right now. So
oh boy.
Yeah, so let's see. I have 4,000 shares and I'm up like $138 at today's share price. So I'm probably about 220-ish.
Yeah.
Based on that math, somewhere in that area. So, which is not, I don't think that's a demand.
Long term, that's still good.
Yeah. Well, and you have to be prepared because this is, small cap, micro cap territory. So like a 40% drop, that's just a rough month, if that happens to one of the mega caps, it's like the end of the world. But down here in the tiny company space, that's just a normal, August or whatever.
To quote Raul Julia as Bison in the Street Fighter movie, for me, it's just Tuesday.
It's just Tuesday. Yeah, exactly. So I'm used to high volatility. I'm used to it going crazy high. I'm used to it falling really low. Ideally, I like to have a little cash ready, to buy bottoms. I did the cheapest shares I managed to buy in March of 2023. One of the ETFs was busy unwinding its position, and so they're dumping like 300,000 shares over the course of like a week into the market, and it's just driving the price down. Yeah. And I didn't know quite when the selling was going to end, but I knew it was close because they only had, you could look at their position every day after the market closed and watch it shrink and shrink and shrink. So I just put limit buys at every penny, like all the way down to like 80 cents. And I got fills all the way down at $1.04. Unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot of shares down at $1.04, but I'm very happy to have those shares down there. And those are going to be the ones that I like never sell. So like when I'm 80 and I'm like bragging about this is my 400 bagger or whatever I bought back in 2023, like those will be the shares that I set my brokerage to sell the highest value shares first. And so those will be the ones that I'm holding on to last.
So I have a question with the limit buys because I'm not familiar with it. I'm a little slow in this aspect, but when you place the limit buys, does the cash already come out of your account even if the buy doesn't go through?
So some brokers might handle this a little differently, but most of my brokers, they will typically like immediately lock that money up. It's still yours, you still own it, but you will see your cash available to trade number go down. Sometimes like seconds after you place the trade. Sometimes it takes like 5 or 10 minutes to like fully register.
I believe Schwab keeps them as like pending orders, which does tie up the cash. But if you go in to your pending orders and you cancel it, the cash comes right back to your tradable cash. Yeah.
So I think the cash doesn't leave your account until the trade is executed.
But
correct. It gets tied up and like, stamped, like reserved, until then.
See, I just wouldn't like that. You can always cancel, but Are we pro or anti limit orders, Fiscal?
I mean,
Neutral. Are we
I'm
neutral?
okay. I'm okay using them sometimes. I mean, a lot of on a very highly liquid stock, I'll just do market orders sometimes. But on smaller caps like this, where gaps can happen because there's not a ton of trading volume, like he was talking about 300 shares getting sold off in a week, tanked the price. This is not a very high volume thing, so you can get really screwed not using limit orders on something like high tide. So I use limit orders, but usually it's just like a penny or so off from whatever the current price actually is. So I basically always get filled.
Yeah, if you always just place limits, 1% cheaper than what you would have been filled at market, that's sort of a form of compounding. Like imagine everything you buy your entire life was 1% off. That's compounding right there. It's good. It's far better than bad. That's actually something I know neither of you are into TA, but that's something I use TA to help me get slightly better buys. I use volume profile where instead of the volume being on the x-axis, the volume is on the y-axis, and it gives you a lot more information about where you want to place your limit buys and your limit sells and stuff.
Yeah, we're the cash flow clowns. I don't think we'll ever get to the technical analysis that level.
I don't have anything like against it. It's just like, my timing is probably the one thing I would say I get the worst. So maybe it's something I should work on. And TA is, if nothing else, something that can help you with your timing, getting better entries and exits on things. So
even if it's just a tiny advantage, some traders make a lot of money with, they only have like a 4% edge, but they take hundreds of trades, and that can be profitable. And I'm not saying you investors should go teach yourself how to trade, but many of the same skills that they use to decide when to get good entries and where to set their stops and all that, many of those same skills translate well to people who are just plain trying to buy shares at a good price, So if you treat yourself TA and you teach yourself the basics of trading, and I can point you in the right direction on who to listen to for that sort of thing, instead of don't fall into some scummy gurus.
Jeremy Lefebvre, that's obviously the best TA.
Yeah, just don't go listening to Jeremy Lefebvre or Meet Kevin for advice on trading or markets.
I was thinking about doing a Chris Sane. I hear he.
The inverse Kramer. If I could just get an inverse Chris Sane index, I would probably consider that.
All right, boys, we're firing up the ETF.
Yeah.
Wait till the inverse.
He buys calls, I'll sell calls. He buys puts, I'll sell puts.
The inverse Camaro ETF comes out. You get reverse dividends where you
just buy the underlying of everything he buys, and then just
you get the price appreciation goes up, but you get instead of there's a fee for the dividend because you're not actually making money from it, so it equals out at the end of the day. Only TNA is into the bedroom with the chicas. Oh, good to hear. We tie on dividend.
Yeah, some people treat it like this, like magic bullet. It'll solve all your problems. It'll make you lots of money. And the honest truth is that, if you have a 5% edge, you're lucky, and you got to take a bunch of trades and you got to be willing to eat losses and stuff. It's not a game most people are psychologically prepared to play.
Well, I actually, I liken it to when, if we use analogies, I liken it to being an advantaged blackjack player where you card count, gives you a 2 or 3% edge over the house. You're not going to make $1 million overnight probably, but over time, that small percentage edge over thousands of hands will eventually accrue into a substantial sum.
Same with poker. A higher level of understanding can give you a 5% edge over everyone else at the table.
Yeah.
Enough often that's all you really need, to take the whole table is a little bit of an edge,
Yeah. Can't wait for the Cash Flow Kings Las Vegas meetup in 2 years, Fiscal. I can't wait.
No, actually, I used to play a lot of online poker when I was Ryan's age.
I can't do online gambling, dude. It's got to be an experience. The only time I've gambled is on vacation in the Bahamas where it's 18, and you got to at least be there for the experience. And you got to be right. You got to be ready to lose the money because you're more likely than not going to. But
I mean, if you play like something like roulette or whatever, yeah. But if you're pretty decent at poker and you find a soft table, you can consistently do pretty well.
Ryan, were
I
you
don't
in
know
Nassau?
poker. Yeah, Nassau.
Yeah. Did you have
Been there?
cracked I lived about 20 miles from Nassau. I was on North Andros.
Ooh.
So I could
Okay.
see the glow of Nassau at night, like over the horizon, but I never actually went to Nassau.
Yeah, a lot of tourists there. I don't know.
Did you have cracked conch?
Oh yeah, conch fritters. Yeah, we have those.
Yeah.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
I'll have them for like 2 days and then I get sick of them though. So I gotta balance myself out. There's not gonna be a lot of people that get that joke, but if you do get it, then that's hilariously funny.
I'll tell you what, if we in my Discord we have this thing going where if MPW hits a certain price, we'll be having a Vegas meetup.
Okay.
So,
Oh no. Dude, I'm gonna be there, but I'm gonna have to like stay at the hotel for half the time.
Yeah, he's not 21 yet.
I'll go there, but I mean,
you should choose a location more appropriate for Ryan.
yeah.
does he have his MPW shares? You got to be an MPW shareholder to
There are
participate.
still there's a few ongoing bets still that I have to go through if I do buy MPW. Hey, I did vote that I'd rather buy MPW over Celsius. I did.
Oh, like that's that hard of a. Well, I mean, even after MPW just ran
Everything
up,
dude voted Celsius.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but I mean, let's pull up the weekly chart because that's the measure, right? But no, it has had a runaway week this week because things have started to sort of reach their inevitable conclusion, and Stewart is being wiped from the game board, and the market loves it. And it's still 40% sold short, by the way.
Wow.
It just had a very substantial run up in price. So, yeah.
Ready to squeeze then, huh?
Sorry, what now?
Ready to squeeze then, huh? If it's 40% held short.
It very well could be. It seems like they're not ready to capitulate just yet, but let's see. There's a major thing that the judge is supposed to sign off on the bankruptcy. It's like what did they call it? A global deal or agreement or whatever on Tuesday. So the market probably isn't following the bankruptcy hearings as closely as some of us on my Discord are, like dialing in and all that stuff, because they don't webcast it or anything. So you actually have to like from a real phone line like dial in and like enter the code and stuff. So it's the court system is very much stuck in the 90s, I've noticed. But I think when the deal is done and a press release comes out, probably you'll see the real reaction. And hey, maybe a nice rate cut for REITs in general will help move that along. Yeah, I think we could be looking at a squeeze. I
think the Fed's going to cut rates. I mean, we're looking at inflation's down, unemployment is slowly climbing.
Yeah.
If they leave things as is, eventually unemployment will start to like slip upwards, like gain momentum on its way up, and we'll face an actual recession. And if they manage the next, 12 months right, we might pull off the first soft landing in history. Like it's possible. They're lined up on the runway. They're coming in for a good approach. We'll see how hard the landing is, but it could be fairly soft.
Just wait till November. Just wait till November.
Yeah. Right. Markets tend to fluctuate really hard the day after an election is decided, because people got to reposition. Whatever position you were in, maybe you got to sell, then move it the next day into something else. So there'll be some form of politically based rotation.
Oh yeah.
I remember back in 2000 when when W was elected, and I was really shocked at how hard the market went down like the next day. And it's because people were just plain rotating, from what if Gore won to Bush won, and then because it was clear Bush, there was a lot of unclarity for like a week or two, and then it was super clear Bush was going to win, and then the second that the clarity arrived, markets reacted by rotating.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why the tech bubble burst, because the guy who invented the internet lost the election. So
Oh, that's perfect. I've never heard that before. Happened like 20 people have had 25 years to make that joke, and you just now made it.
First time in history here on the Cash Flow Kings, guys.
What happened after Biden got elected? I forgot.
I don't remember. I think it was fairly expected. I don't think the
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And when Trump got elected, it went down, I believe.
Yeah. The Hillary Trump thing, there was a lot of indecision. And then when it was clear that Trump won, there was rotation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird now because it's like 50-50, so.
Yeah.
And
So
I feel like it's gonna stay that way.
How do you
it's
think
pretty
it's
tight? Huh?
The out of the possible results, like how do you see it impacting high tide, which is the main topic of the show?
So yeah, sure. So both candidates are pro reform, so I don't see any problem. It's sort of like a win-win-win. You know, if Kamala wins, she's going to keep pushing the rescheduling agenda that Biden started, 2.5, 3 years ago. So that ball is going to keep going. It's going to keep having general support from the White House to find a resolution. And if Trump wins, he just recently posted something last week about how it's clearly going to get voted up for recreational in Florida. And there's no point in fighting the will of the voters. If anything, the Republicans need to get out ahead of it in Florida and try to pass some kind of comprehensive laws to keep people from having to smell it in public. So you should just admit defeat. Yeah, admit defeat and try to win the battles that you can, right? And so when both candidates are basically declaring, hey, if it's the will of the voters, if it's the will of the people, the will of the public, it should happen, well, then I don't see either candidate being a barrier to eventual like rescheduling in the U.S. and then after that, eventual full-blown recreational allowance, like adult use, 21 and up or whatever. And I think, we're looking maybe 3 to 9 months for rescheduling, and then maybe 3 to 9 years for, full-blown rec, something like that.
So on rescheduling in particular, I'm sure you heard that they had pushed back the hearing till after the election. And I saw the stock reacted a little bit negatively to it. I thought that was kind of a little bit of a nothing burger. What do you think?
So if actually, Ryan, could you pull up a chart of MSOS compared to high tide at the same time, like with both tickers?
I got it.
So MSOS is what you can see the huge reaction on MSOS. And that is the American sector. Like it's got all these American producers in it. There's about 25 of them. High tide, part of my thesis is that high tide is going to do well when the American sector takes off because of a sympathy play, right? Because the entire industry is going to do well. Because in the past, when one sector takes off to the moon, all of the other cannabis sectors, right, the whole industry gets dragged up with it. So the phrase that gets used a lot in the industry is that a rising tide lifts all boats. So even the worst cash flow negative cannabis company in North America is going to have a really good month at some point in the next couple of years, whenever this next rally hits. So that's part of why, the people are so bullish on the whole thing. And so when the news came out that the DEA and everything was going to reschedule, they're going to reschedule a rescheduling trial, right, for December 2nd. So it's going to begin on December 2nd. The speed of bureaucracy, it's going to wrap up probably February-ish or something. I don't really know.
I couldn't get the Seeking Alpha chart up.
After it wraps up, the DEA, they will have checked every box. They will have dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. They will be out of things that they have to do in order to pass this into new law. So yeah, Ryan, did you get a chart bring up?
I couldn't find one directly compared.
It's hard to find one that directly compares. So see if you can find one. We can just look it over the last month, and it'll show the major reaction that happened. What day did that happen on? Was that Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, so I think if you go back to toward the left of part of that chart, you'll see that drop to the left of your cursor. Yeah, right. That was probably when the news hit.
Yeah,
and then high tide had a big reaction, and then it sort of chopped around, and then it just went right up into the 210, 220 region because high tide doesn't really care. It doesn't need rescheduling. It wants rescheduling. It wants that door to open, but it still has plenty of growth opportunity available to it up in Canada. It's got lots of things to do for the next 3, 4, 5 years until it really starts to hit that brick wall where it's like, man, I want to expand, but other countries haven't opened the door yet, and so it'll be a while before that becomes a problem for this company. And I fully anticipate these doors to open well before that threshold has arrived, and even if it does, so what? Their revenue growth drops off and they start doing what, buying back shares or something, like, because at some point they'll have to do something with their cash flow,
right?
Where if you can't open new stores that in a way that makes sense, you should do something with it. Pay a special dividend, buy back shares, something, I don't know. But if new growth opportunities, new markets don't open up for this company, eventually, 3, 4, 5 years from now, they might start to have to, do alternative things with their cash flow instead of just opening more stores.
Yeah,
80% dividend yield. You heard it first.
Could you imagine like their cash flow keeps going up, but the share price doesn't go with it, and they're trading at like three times cash flow or something? Like, they'd have to. Like it would be required.
I'll just keep buying. Yeah. So one of the lesser experienced investors that I chat with on Discord, I like DM with him back and forth pretty frequently. About 3 months ago, he asked me a question. He's like, "When is enough enough? Like, let's say the fundamentals keep getting better and the share price just keeps on trading effectively sideways for the next couple of years. Are you going to call it quits?" And then I answered, well, basically you're saying if intrinsic value keeps rising and the share price doesn't, am I going to give up? And the answer is no, I'm just going to buy more. And like, because that improves the margin of safety and it improves your opportunity for heightened elevated returns. If the bigger that gap is, the better. That makes it more attractive, not less. You just have to be patient. Like I told you last time I was on here, you have to be prepared to wait around while lackluster returns happen until eventually the actual gains arrive.
Yeah.
I bought Starbucks and he bought MPW. We have no issue doing that.
Yeah, it's very true. Like I've done that to date with MPW. Like I got in it a little bit earlier than a lot of other people and had to watch it be down 50% plus from where I first got in, and I just I'll just average down because I think
more.
And now I'm actually finally back in the green again into them. So we're there. Patience does sometimes pay off. So I have no problem with that. I am practiced in patience. I'm just really fascinated by the way High Tide sometimes reacts to different bits of news.
It gets clumped in with the rest of the Canadian industry. Like the sector up in Canada, most of them are producers, very few are retailers. Anytime bad news hits the producers, for some reason, High Tide goes down, and I'm always baffled. I'm like, what's going on here? This particular piece of news is not going to negatively affect High Tide, but yet High Tide goes down from the sympathy play.
Yeah.
And every time that happens, it really just reinforces my idea that the whole sector moves together. People are clumping all these companies into a group, and they're treating them all as if they were the same thing, even though there's a lot of variation in business models from one company to the next. Some are specializing in beverages, some are specializing in edibles, some are specializing in vaping. High Tide is specializing in retailing. They're not a producer, but there's a whole bunch of different niches, but the entire industry just gets clumped together. And so bad news hits, the flower producers, and all of a sudden all the retailers are hit by it too. And it really doesn't make sense. And the fact that it's a low float penny stock with relatively low volume mean that a deep pocketed whale can step in and manipulate the market down or up or anything. It's actually not that difficult. Like if you were to hand me 10 mil, I could force the price real low or real high in a hurry. Just grab a hold of the market, gamma squeeze it one way or the other, sell your position, walk away. You can make a lot of money on a low float penny stock like this, where not a whole lot of people are participating in it, And so I've seen pretty violent moves, both to the up and the down over the last couple of years. And it's really hard to say what causes them. But I usually just chalk them off to, some whale short came in and decided to short it down 20 cents and then walk away.
Yeah. Somebody's got to make a sacrifice. Yeah, I was going to pull this up.
What's your definition of profitable? Because I mostly just look at cash flow.
That's what I was
net income.
He's probably talking about net income.
Net income, net income, that's really just something that companies do to calculate how many taxes they have to pay. true profitability should be a measure of cash flow and free cash flow to firm, like levered free cash flow, where all of your debt obligations are already part of that, right? So there's unlevered free cash flow where your debt obligations are not included. And then there's levered where all your monthly or quarterly bills related to your debt all get paid first, and then whatever's left over is your true cash flow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't really look at net income, but I do know that the market pays attention to it. So if net income goes up, share price goes up. It's real simple. So I personally, when I'm evaluating the fundamentals of a company, how strong are its financials, I'm looking at cash flow.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like British American Tobacco, which I don't think anybody would define as unprofitable, technically speaking, trailing 12 months doesn't have net income because they did a big write down expecting for menthol bans to happen in the US, which ended up not happening. Yet, they're not profitable, but actually they are. If you look at their free cash flow, they still are able to pay back a dividend, and they're still able to buy back shares and pay down debt and stuff. That doesn't happen from a lack of money coming in.
Yeah. And same with like a famous example is Amazon. Amazon spent many years, net income negative and cash flow positive. And would you consider them an unattractive investment because of that? And personally, no. Like if they're generating cash flow and they're growing revenue, I really kind of don't care what their net income is. If anything, if you can magically maintain that negative net income and avoiding paying taxes forever, that's ideal. Like imagine if Amazon just straight up didn't have to pay taxes because of depreciation and a few other accounting write-downs and stuff like that. All these like cash hogs, imagine how much more profitable they'd be if they didn't have to pay taxes. Yeah, ROIC is a good one. Return on capital employed and return on equity. The three return metrics, some of them are better at measuring certain things than others. Like you wouldn't want to measure a REIT with ROIC, but it makes a lot of sense to measure a REIT with ROE. And so I tend to look at all three of those, and depending on the industry and the business model, like are you in manufacturing, are you in service, like some of those are more relevant than others situationally.
Oh, wow, dissector in here.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh, so I suppose we should talk a little bit more about High Tide. Hey Ryan, I sent you some links.
Yeah.
So often I worry a lot when I talk about this company to people that I sound irrational, right? That I sound like I'm freaking crazy and there's going to be some big rally and I sound like some crypto bro who's telling you we're all going to be gajillionaires and all that. You're right. So pull up the first link I sent you. It mentioned, it references the global CAGR for the industry. So when I think maybe I was on here, maybe I was talking to Capital Mindset, people asked me, maybe it was an audience member, they were like, why do the rallies happen? And the rallies happen because this is comparable to investing into the alcohol industry, like right at the end of, can you hit Control Plus a few times so people can actually read the headline up there? This is just like investing into alcohol right at the end of Prohibition. Except it's super clear that this is an industry that, people are going to imbibe more of in the future than they have in the past. Whereas alcohol, there was just a legal issue that got in the way. People never really stopped consuming it. So this has a CAGR. The global market is expecting a CAGR of 34.03%. And that's compounded annually, right? So this number, I have to bear in mind, this is assuming that doors will open. This is assuming Germany's going to open up. This is probably also assuming the US is going to open up. This is assuming that the train that the industry is on is not going to get derailed. The current momentum is just going to keep going and nothing actually really changes. So one of the reasons I was so bullish on this industry and I started researching it in 2021 was this CAGR value kept going up. Every time I check it every couple of years, I check it in 2010, it says 10%. I'm like, well, that's not going to beat the SPY. I'm not going to touch this industry. I check it in 2015, it says something like, 15, 20%, oh, that's still not high enough. I needed to beat the SPY, right? There's no point in investing in a company or an industry unless you think you can outperform like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or whatever. So around 2020, 2021, when the big spike happened and I decided to research the industry, this was one of the driving factors pushing me into putting money somewhere in this industry was the COGR value for the industry kept going higher and higher and higher. And we can see now it's up to 34% COGR. And I would not be shocked to see this continue to push up, 40%, something like that, at some point over the next decade, as cultural zeitgeist around this, consumer good shifts and it becomes more and more treated like alcohol.
Would it be safe to say that if the industry is going to be 34%, that the best in the industry will be significantly higher?
Yeah. And this is also why I chose a company with a low cost of expansion. It only cost them 400K Canadian to open up a new store, right? They made like 9 million or something, 9.3 million. You can look up the number in free cash flow last quarter. So right there's close to 20 stores that they could open off of their cash generated from that quarter, right? But they're busy paying down debt, they're busy building their war chest, they're getting ready for these future expansions. But if they were like balls to the wall, just opening stores with cash flow, we would be seeing some significant revenue growth right now. And right now they're just prepping. They're getting ready for the next phase of expansion.
Which seems like a lot of people are expecting that to be Germany.
Yeah. Well, it's more clear that Germany is that door is going to open. So the German government is heavily incentivized to open it because they ran on it. So they got to make good on their election promises if they want to get reelected. So they all want to get reelected. They have like 8 or 9 dominant parties over there. The two that did the best in the last election both ran on recreational cannabis. So they've been working very diligently over in their version of Congress over there. I don't know the name of it or whatever, but
is it Parliament? Maybe something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Their version of Congress has been hashing out and hammering out all these details, and they're getting ready to roll out what they call Pillar 2. So it's the second phase, and it's going to make recreational retailers legal, like commercial operations, just like High Tide. All of the High Tides of the world are going to be able to expand it in Germany. And it's super clear that that's probably going to happen at some point in 2025. The momentum that's coming out of Germany, the messaging and the news about the momentum is that they're trying to get this passed before the next round of elections, so that they can run on, look, we did this. Right?
Yeah, their accomplishments instead of their promises, basically.
Yeah. What's less clear is the U.S., right? So the U.S. is definitely rescheduling it from 1 to 3, but that doesn't necessarily mean High Tide's going to automatically be able to just move in the U.S.
Yeah.
So what's actually preventing them from moving now is they're unincentivized from the taxes, right? But as soon as the rescheduling happens, that problem goes away. But the second problem, right, is the NASDAQ. They're a NASDAQ-listed company. The NASDAQ says if you touch the plant, you can't stay listed on the NASDAQ if you operate in the U.S. because the U.S. treats it Schedule 1.
Right.
It's very possible that after it gets pushed to Schedule 3, the NASDAQ is going to shift its policy appropriately and say something along the lines of, as long as you're following state laws, and you continue to follow all of the state laws, we'll let you uplist to the NASDAQ. So all these OTC, they're stuck on the OTC. All these growers in the U.S., not only are they it's almost guaranteed they're going to get a huge tax break. They're going to become significantly more profitable. But what's less guaranteed and quite likely is that they'll be allowed to uplist to the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange and the big boy exchanges. And if they start letting those OTC growers in the U.S. do that, then that's the same door that High Tide's going to get to walk through. Because as soon as they say, hey, if you touch the plant, but you're following state laws, we'll let you on, then High Tide will just, boom, that's the last barrier. So there's a third issue with safe banking. So right now, the entire industry cannot touch credit cards, right? If you're in the U.S. If you're in Canada, it's not a problem. There's it's fully legal up there.
Yeah.
But here in the U.S., if you walk in with like a debit card or a credit card and you try to make a purchase, they will send you over to the ultra high fee, pay an extra $6 ATM over there to pull your cash out, so that you can make your purchase in cash, because all this entire industry in the U.S. is not allowed access to the banking system. And the banking system is actually thirsty for that money, right? So they are incentivized to lobby for safe banking to get passed so that the cannabis industry can finally get access to the banking industry. And so the banking industry can finally get access to the cannabis industry, right? Because right now the cannabis industry is stuck with like loan sharks, which is something, when we move on here to the next couple pieces of news about High Tide, Ryan, if you go to the next piece of news, August was actually a fantastic month for high tide. Several really solid pieces of news hit that are very good for the company. And so I linked them all to Ryan like a couple days ago. I was like, hey, I want to talk about this on tomorrow's live stream or whatever.
Inappropriate ads show up. Did you guys hear me when my camera was off?
No.
There was a bunch of smacks. Okay. I had to kill a large flying animal, and I don't know what it was.
Okay.
It would have
Flying
disrupted the
stinging
show.
insect.
Yeah.
So Nova Cannabis is High Tide's largest competitor. So I guess I should talk for a couple minutes about Sundial so that this actually makes sense in context. So back in 2021, early 2021, during the height of the rally, Sundial, the year before, they were the largest producer on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So that got them a lot of attention. It got them a lot of headlines. When Canada rallied, they raised a bunch of money. When Biden got elected, and the U.S. rallied, Sundial rallied really hard because, again, largest producer on the planet. People are going to throw their money into that. The share price rocketed. Sundial then diluted $1.18 billion from shareholders with at the market openings. Yeah, wow. So before I continue with the story, Ryan, what would you do with $1.18 billion? Bear in mind, you're operationally negative cash flow. So you have negative operating margins. So the more business you do, the more money you lose. And you just raised $1.18 billion. What do you do with it? You're losing. I think they were losing like $80 to $100 million a quarter.
Okay, I'm doing two things. First of all, I'm putting 500 million of that, and I'm gifting all of it into Cashflow Kings channel memberships, pretty much lifetime for everybody right now. And cocaine and hookers in Vegas.
Cocaine. So that's how you're going to save your business.
We'll put them in a high yield savings account too, so they can compound over the next 2 years while I wait. But yeah.
So Fiscal, what would you do with negative cash flow and you just got handed 1.18 billion, and you're the world's largest grower, but there's a huge competition. There's growers everywhere. It's a fungible good. What do you do in that situation?
Boy. Well, you could try to use it to somehow improve operational efficiency, and I don't know how you would in that industry.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if their distribution network maybe was inefficient and you could revamp that with the money somehow. Or, I mean, you could try to pivot and get into maybe add retail on top of growing, but be your own supplier, kind of like how Intel's trying to pivot into foundry kind of thing.
That's so
those
Intel.
are the only two things I can think of to actually spend the money on that would actually help.
So what I would have done with it if I were the CEO, I would set aside like a 2 or 3 quarters worth of cash, but I would have taken most of it, split it into 3 chunks, and bought all of it into the tobaccos. So I would have bought Altria Group, I would have bought British American Tobacco, I would, all of the big 3, and then take the dividends from the tobacco companies and use it to help stem the bleeding while you slowly get the company more and more efficient over time. Because that's a huge pile of cash. Very rarely in a company's history is it just going to get handed massive pile of cash. What are you going to do? Like you said, pivot, become more efficient, right? But for me, I would have dumped most of it into tobacco dividends. Start a relationship with the tobacco industry, right? Where they're not buying you, right? You're buying into them, right? So you have this mutual handshake deal. Both parties are on equal footing, right? As opposed to the other type of handshake deal where the tobacco industry comes in and just hands you a bunch of money. So what Sundial actually decided to do with this is they decided to become the bank of the industry. Because remember, it's very difficult for even Canadian companies to get banking loans because all their financials suck, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that they're what industry they're in, it's that their financials suck so bad the banks won't touch them. Most of them. So
most of them,
Sundial says, I'm going to become a loan shark and I'm going to take on this loan to own strategy. And they pivoted. So they bought Alcanna, they bought a chain of liquor stores, and now a majority of the revenue actually comes from selling alcohol. One of the things that they did about a year and a half, they did this sort of same thing to several other companies. They come in, they buy all your debt, they gain a controlling share of the company, they drive the share price down into the gutter, then they buy the rest of the company out and they scoop up all your assets. Okay, so they drive you into bankruptcy, they take all your assets. The only problem with the strategy is these are low quality assets. They already drove their first owners into bankruptcy. So it's not a very good strategy. So about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they came in and they bought all of Nova Cannabis's debt. Nova was struggling at the time. They were not generating positive cash flow. They had significant debt. It did not look like they were going to be able to pay it off. They were on a trajectory that was eventually going to lead to bankruptcy. Sundial stepped in, took all that debt away, but now they own like 51% of the company. So Sundial has forced them to sign an oppressive franchise agreement in a retail cannabis industry where every penny matters. Margins are super tight. Mm-hmm. Nova has to hand Sundial between 10 and 15% of the revenue from all Sundial products sold in a Nova store. And you better believe Sundial was forcing them to pack the shelves heavily with Sundial products instead of everybody else's products. So this was a brutal franchise agreement. Nova eventually said, we can't do this. You're driving us into bankruptcy. And we were already going to bankruptcy. Now you're going to take us there faster. So Sundial, after many months of what I would only describe as intentional mismanagement, has finally decided to acquire the rest of Nova Cannabis. This is High Tide's primary competitor. Nova Cannabis is the other discount retailer in Canada currently putting stress on the entire industry, right? Because both of them are out here just undercutting everybody else, right? You can either go to a High Tide. Here's another side tangent that's actually pretty relevant. High Tide, when you step in, it feels like a jewelry store. It's very nice. It's very clean. There's lots of things behind glass, you know. When you step into one of these Nova Cannabis, it actually feels like you're stepping back into the late 90s, walking into a Blockbuster. The walls are yellow. There's these like racks of things all over the place for you to walk around and look at things on racks. It feels like a Blockbuster. And it actually kind of, I hate to be too disparaging, but it actually feels like a slightly run down Blockbuster because it's all like cheap, dirty carpeting with stains all over it and stuff like that. Because remember, Nova Cannabis is like cutting every corner because they're getting brutalized by Sundial on the franchise agreement. So they can't splurge on things like nice carpeting or, you know, new paint for the walls or stuff like that. So, but they sell the exact same products. You know, both High Tide and Nova have a huge repertoire of things that they sell from basically every producer in Canada. So if you have your favorite brand or whatever, and you go to either a Nova or a High Tide, you're going to find basically the same selection. You know, you're going to find a handful of things that are specific that you won't find at the other one, but there's a huge amount of overlap. So this is High Tide's main competitor, and it is being intentionally mismanaged into the gutter so that Sundial can pick up the rest of it on the cheap. It is difficult to say what Sundial is going to do for this company. Are they going to throw money into expansion? Are they just going to lead it stagnate like they've been doing for the last year or so? I do not really know, but this is fantastic news for High Tide because Sundial's plans are not to make Nova Cannabis a global player, right? They're just there to be part of Sundial's package, right? And Sundial's busy. They're loan sharks. They're handing out loans. They're just collecting assets. They're playing a very different game than what everyone else is playing. They're playing a loan-to-own strategy. It's very difficult to go down this road and have success. You can do it. You know, a lot of people have done this sort of thing. This is a different type of bottom fishing than what most investors are interested in doing. Buy a company, intentionally drive it to the gutter, buy the rest. It's unusual, but this is very good news for High Tide.
It sounds a little bit like what people think private equity is up to.
Oh yeah. It's very similar to the private equity strategy. You buy a thing, you bleed it dry, you get more money out of the asset than you paid for the asset at the end of the day. What was this? I can't remember. Oh, Tokyo Smoke. Yeah. So I keep on telling you guys this narrative about how like High Tide is driving everyone else out of business. And they're highly competitive and they're stealing market share, and customers, you know, they don't like going to other stores. They like going to High Tide. They also like going to Nova Cannabis, but they like going to High Tide. Tokyo Smoke just finally declared bankruptcy. They're closing 29 more stores. So it seems like every time I'm on Capital Mindset or I'm on here, another one of these companies has we're shutting 20 stores, you know, and all of these small chain retailers, they own 20 to 30 stores. they're all struggling right now. This is a big part of why Raj, 3-4 years ago, he was like, hey, I have to reach scale. If I don't reach scale, I'm going to get drowned out. I'm not going to be able to tread water, and I'm going to drown with everybody else. And so that is a big part of why he went on that like M&A spree, where they merged into a bunch of extra stores. They just blanketed Canada with stores. They're up to like 174-ish or something. I can never get the store count.
I think they just got above 180 actually.
180. Oh man,
yeah.
I should pay more attention.
See, I'm pretty sure I think they just passed 180 like very recently is what I was reading. I follow all the people on X that post about High Tide. So I get to hear about every time they open a new store, basically.
I've been trying to get some of those guys to come on here for the roundtable in 2 weeks, and most of them are just not that interested.
Afraid of real.
They'd rather just talk about it on Twitter.
Are they camera shy? Is that it?
A couple of them are like legally obligated because of the companies they work for. See, I'm an engineer. My company doesn't care at all that I talk about stocks. But a lot of these guys that I talk to on X and stuff that I've known through Discord that are also involved in High Tide. Many of them are financial advisors. Many of them are like have a degree in finance and work in sales or investing or some.
So they
sort
have to be
of,
careful about.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like if their job is to set up 401ks professionally or something, they can't just go on the internet and blab about stocks, because then it puts them in career risk. I'm putting myself at reputational risk, not career risk. My career is never going to be affected by whether or not I win or lose a bunch of money on the stock market and what I say about a particular company or other. Most of the people that are in High Tide are here because they're like professional analysts. They caught this early. Right. You guys caught this early. I caught this early. Most of the world is not going to know this is a good company for like 5 more years. It'll be 10 years before this company has enough name recognition to equal, like, say, Tim Hortons. We will be there eventually, but it's going to be a while. We are way early on this. Summary, Tokyo Smoke has bit the dust. It's just another one down,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm regretting going into finance now. I'm never going to become a CFA and manage people's money. So the cash flow kings will be nothing if that happens.
I've thought about studying for the CFA exam just to become a better investor.
Oh, you aren't doing it just for the point of putting it on the end of your Discord name? You don't want to be a Discord CFA?
I don't want to pay all that money just to go take a test. I'd rather just learn the information from a book and become a better investor.
Wait till I tell you about my college experience after this last article here.
Become a doctor of fine arts and then also become a CFA that he can be Dr. Blake Downer CFA.
Yeah, my father's a doctor, and Ryan, I spent like 9 years teaching at the college level, so I'm sure that what you've gone through is a horror story that I've probably heard a similar story to at some point in the past.
I don't know. This is wild.
Pretty wild. Okay, so High Tide recently started launching a new brand, right? So they have a blend of products that they offer. Most of it is products that other people produce, actual producers. They do, however, purchase some things wholesale and then produce products out of the wholesale things and then put them on their shelves, right? So white label. So High Tide has been slowly expanding their own in-house brands. They started this ever since they started the Elite program. So the Elite program is forcing them to produce a bunch of their own in-house brands with really high margins, so that way they can sell these high margin brands to elite people and eat most of the margins up and still make money, right? So the goal here is to produce a product that is so amazingly profitable, you can offer it at a massive discount, still walk away happy. So they purchased a brand called Queen of Bud. This brand is specifically targeted toward females. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I asked my wife, I was
like $1 million or something.
Yeah, they got a good deal on it. So that's actually part of my thesis is like to tangent within this tangent here. When I first started investigating this company, I was like, oh, cool. The CEO is really sharp. Excellent. Well, I've been watching him for like 3 years now, and he's not just sharp. He's an excellent negotiator. He's adaptable. He's data driven. All of you've been hearing me say for months now. This company has a super competitive business model. I think the actual moat here is the CEO. The real moat is he's driven, he's adaptive. There's a phrase that you'll see it on stock twits, and you'll see it on Twitter. Raj never sleeps. He spends all day long obsessing about how to make this company better, more efficient. Obviously he has kids and a wife and a real life outside of work, but this is his life and his persona. And he has a lot of skills that really do well for the CEO position. For example, he's an excellent negotiator. He picked this up for $1 million or whatever. Great deal. The woman that started the brand, now she is a brand ambassador. So they're shipping her all over the world to help promote the brand, right? So, so one of the things that this brand does is they have rose petal infused blunts. And I was like, well, that's an interesting concept. I don't really know much about that. And so rose petal infused. Yeah, so I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, this is targeted at females. I'll ask my wife. So I'm like, hey, honey, would you be more inclined to smoke a blunt if it was infused with rose petals? And she's all into gardening and flowers, and she liked Candy's lavenders. She immediately said yes. So all I can think is like, well, maybe they're onto something with this brand. I don't really know, but this is just the latest in a long list of brand expansions. They're trying to increase their number of high margin offerings.
We're gonna do some due diligence here.
I heard Raj say that over the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to push their white label offerings up into the 20 to 30% of their total offerings. And so in my mind, what I hear is gross margins are going to expand slowly over the next 3 to 5 years, right? And that's a really good thing for me. Like me as an investor, if I see gross margins expand from the 28% that they're at now up to say 34%, I'd be stoked. That'd be fantastic, because this company is already really efficient. Their flat costs are low. Their administrative costs are low. If they can, any little bit of gross margin improvement is going to translate to significant improved compounding. I know Ryan hates me to use the word compounding. But
I love it. It's great. Quality compounding, even better.
Yeah, so this is the lady that founded Queen of Bud. And so now she's a brand ambassador for High Tide, walking around just promoting the brand and increasing awareness. That's what her new job is.
Wow. Hear me out, Fiscal. Wow. Oh, what an asset they acquired. That's all I have to say. Yeah, I'm looking at their website right now. Yeah,
but it's definitely smart though if the brand was started by that person to keep that person around and use them as an asset, have your interests be aligned, basically.
Yeah. And they paid her in shares. So her alignment is directly in alignment with both Raj's interests and our interests as shareholders. So when she's out there trying to promote the brand, she's out there she's incentivized to do well, to actually put in the effort and make sure that it does well, because she owns a bunch of shares now.
Yep.
Man, I couldn't imagine owning that ridiculous amount enough with the volatility. I don't know. I have a good stomach, but some people would not be able to handle it. There's a million.
Well, there's a couple of those guys on Twitter that talk about High Tide a lot, and I know at least one of them is up above 300,000 shares.
I'm not surprised.
And a couple of others are pushing around 200,000. And
one of the ones I was chatting back and forth with a little bit, he was like, I have 100, I think it was 175,000 something.
That's probably Jeff.
Yeah.
I think it was Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah. There's half a dozen or so of these whales that have just put a bunch of money in here for being retail participants, their own personal cash. They're not fund managers, they're just putting their portfolio into this company because they see what I see. They get the story. The potential here,
but there's a real thesis.
Yeah, the potential here is huge. Yeah. And it's not guaranteed to play out, right? This is the stock market. Anything can happen, but this is the single most attractive opportunity that I see out of thousands of companies, thousands. High quality business model, high quality CEO, massive industry-wide catalyst approaching. I just have to be patient and, keep accumulating slowly. I'll be fine.
Have you heard of Starbucks?
Have you heard of Starbucks?
Yeah, I heard they have a new CEO.
Yes, talk about leadership. You get 50% of the net worth in Starbucks, 50% in High Tide, and I think that's pretty good.
So I'm
yeah,
noticing these books in my background, and I was wanting to ask, have you guys read any of the books that I recommended? And if not, that's fine. But I want to know, which ones have you bought and not read yet and not gotten to? Which ones have you read?
So
I
I
can't read.
bought 2, started 1.
Yeah, I don't read at all. I'm not.
So I bought One Up on Wall Street and Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits, and I started One Up on Wall Street and just got sidetracked by life. But so far, I'm enjoying the read.
I read enough in my rhetorical studies class. No, I do most of my due diligence honestly here, but like also just like watching YouTube. Reading is just like I'd have to really get back into it, and maybe I'll do the audiobook.
You can listen to One Up on Wall Street on YouTube.
Yeah, it sucks. I have the One Up on Wall Street book literally upstairs. I got it for Christmas a few years ago, and I've just
I personally, when it comes to reading, I think I enjoy the experience of holding the book and actually reading it. I might, if I was like doing like a long drive or something, I might consider, if I could find the audiobook and like get it on my phone, Bluetooth speakers in the car, whatever, I might consider it in that instance. But in most cases, if I can find the time to actually read the book, I just enjoy that process so much more.
You aren't putting Joseph Carlson on in the car for the 5-hour-long trip?
I don't think I'm putting Joseph Carlson. Usually I'm more of a music guy when driving, some like heavy metal and stuff. But I would consider an audiobook for a change of pace if I was like wanting to both learn and drive at the same time.
Oh, on the topic of driving, I got my license this week, Fiscal.
Oh, congratulations.
I passed the test. Last time, this is Cash Flow Kings only, so I will say this. It's officially past 9 p.m. Last time, I may or may not have hit a mailbox while doing the parallel parking segment. Thankfully, this time, though, it was an actual assessment of real man's driving as far as I'm concerned, so I passed. And
so, it's really funny. There was no parallel parking assessment when I took my driver's test.
You want to hear the crazy thing? They didn't make me do it this time. I don't know how they didn't make me. And I'm in New York, which is absolutely like the guy must have been in a generous mood that day.
Okay, so this gentleman wants to know which metal bands. So, I would say first and foremost, my the first metal that I ever got into was Rob Zombie when I was because back on the PS1 I was playing the Twisted Metal games, and Twisted Metal 2 and 3 both had and 4 actually, they all had Rob Zombie soundtracks. So, or he was on the soundtrack, prominently featured in those games. And this is like the late 1990s. So just to date myself a little bit there as to how old I am. But yeah, that's like my first metal experience there. And I also sometimes like to listen, and this is kind of almost as old, Cradle of Filth, which is just the absolute most guttural screams you can possibly imagine, but also paired with very, very, very melodic, nice female vocals to contrast it. And something about that contrast is just really nice. And I also really like to find, if I can find like metal covers of like non-metal like pop songs and stuff. Like I think it's Mudvayne has like a cover of King of Pain, which was by the Police back in the day. Stuff like that. I think there's a metal band called, I think it's like Grave Worm or something. They have a cover of Holding Out for a Hero, which was by like, I think Blondie.
You listen to that doing cardio?
That's the only way I can get through my cardio.
That's fair.
Otherwise, yeah. Cardio is a challenge, I'm
doing conditioning now. It's terrible.
It's one of the things I definitely need to work on, though, especially as I get older. The heart health is definitely top of mind for sure, especially with my family history and everything. Heart disease runs strong.
Don't mess with heart disease on the Cash Flow Kings. Let me think. Avenged Sevenfold, I think that's what it's called. They have a good song that I like. Can you consider Metallica a heavy metal band, or is that just
You know what? Metallica. I mean, metal is in. Metallica counts. I don't care what anybody says.
Metallica. That's just.
And by the way,
just
Enter
they wanna
Sandman
listen.
is probably like people say it's overrated. I say F you. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think I have a few Metallicas that are staples on the lifting playlist. Fade to Black, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Sandman's on there. It's a little overplayed, but it's still good once you actually listen to it. That's kind of what you got to do. You got to actually listen to it. Metallica's a pop in, yeah, sure.
Metallica's a pop.
Sure.
I definitely enjoyed some metal over the years, like Rammstein, whatnot, my three favorite bands, like growing up, was always like early mid 90s was Rage Against the Machine, and then late 90s was Nine Inch Nails.
And I do like them too, yeah.
Yeah, and then like into the 2000s, I like rediscovered Tool because I always kind of liked Tool a little bit, but I didn't really get into them until like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, stuff like that. And the older I get, I don't know how to explain this, but the older I get, the better Eminem gets. Like,
I kind of agree with that. I get what you're saying.
Better, but like I'm starting to appreciate him more. I guess
for new stuff or old stuff.
The both. I mean, I go back and listen to like his second and third album and find new appreciation for it that I didn't find 25 years ago when it was new.
It's weird because Eminem was like so big when I was like in 6th grade. I mean, I shouldn't have been listening to it back then, by the way, but here we are. But now I definitely actually appreciate how talented he is a lot more. Like it was almost you only listen to it when you're that age because it's forbidden. but now it's like like I go back and I listen to like recently Stan. I listened to it again, and it's like wow, like this is some powerful stuff. What talent, and Dido's piece on there was really nice too. And the music video is also really good, by the way.
Yeah, his newer stuff, like he literally raps faster than people can read. Yeah, like if you watch a lyric video and of say Godzilla, he's like rapping faster than people, like the read speed of people who can follow along. So if you try to watch a lyric video, there's a disconnect between what your eyes can understand and what your ears can understand.
Yeah. My generation is Playboy Cardi. That's all.
Yeah.
No, neither of you are gonna know who that is, but there will be 2 people in the comment section who can.
What's your favorite Rammstein song?
I mean, so I'm from that generation where like Du Hast absolutely took everything over for about 6 months. So it's hard for me to say anything but that. I know
Du Hast in The Matrix, the first one.
I was first exposed to it from the movie How High with like the 2 rappers, like Eric Method Man or Redman or something from the Wu-Tang Clan. You know the movie I'm talking about?
Wait, what was the title again?
I think it was called How High.
I feel like I've seen that like show up in like my shorts feed or something recently.
Okay. There's a scene where the one guy wakes the other guy up with Du Hast at like 110 decibels.
That sounds like quite a way to be awakened.
Yeah.
But I think other than Du Hast though, America, it's wunderbar. That's just it's great. It's great all around.
I'll share the horror story.
All right.
Well, I want to hear it.
In college. Okay, so I'm going to a community college. Hopefully nobody doxes me. So there's most of the classes that I have. It's all through this one platform called Synage Unlimited. Only $200 for an entire year. All my classes, all my books, all the stuff that you need is on there. For this one class, and I'm going to be very vague because I don't want to get in trouble because I'm 2 weeks in. This one class, the own professor, I'm not even going to say what gender it is. They write their own book. What a coincidence, right? They write their own book.
And they get the money for it, too. I've heard this. I think I've heard this.
And they make you buy it.
Yeah, they make you buy
it. Oh, it gets better.
Okay.
So you can rather get the book at the local bookstore. Guess how much it is? Community college,
$300
guess how much?
Yeah, college textbook prices, so $300 to $500.
$250.
Okay,
It's
that's
still
fair for a college textbook.
$250.
And let me guess,
Yeah,
it's like some binder of printouts that they put together, right, in like a spiral notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you could also
Yeah.
you could buy it online. This is the best part. You think you'd buy it online, perhaps, through the school? No. It's their own website. They literally made their own website, their own biography on it. I can't comprehend it. It's a scam, dude. I'm so it unleashes another different level of pissed off in me because poor Guff, I know, is watching this right now too.
Yeah, the community college professor, like self-made book that the students have to buy to pass the
literally
class.
have to buy because you're right in the book too. That's the thing. You can't resell it.
It's like this is what Meet Kevin would have done if he was a college professor.
Well, that's the shitty thing. The shitty thing is that like you can't resell it either because like I was gonna try to look for a used version, or resell it back to school. No, they make you write in the book and then you just go over the answers in class. It's a scam. I can't comprehend it. I'd understand maybe if it were a 4-year university, but yeah, college. I'm starting to realize it's more of a scam than I even thought it was.
Literally buy my course, bro.
Yeah, it is. It's horrible. It pains me to have to pay for it, and I'm not even paying for most of it. So
just wait until you try to transfer to another school and the new school refuses to take any of your credits from the old school and they make you repeat classes.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I mean, luckily, like in most cases, if he goes to an in-state,
it's gonna be for
a lot of the times. Yeah, there's like reciprocity where they'll take it and stuff. So I think as long as he does that, he's probably set, at least for most of the classes.
And it sucks because this is a course that's required for graduating finance too.
So yeah, she's got you by the short ones, huh? Or he or they.
It's them. It's they them. They might be. Who knows? They could be.
I was speculating. I wouldn't want to assume anybody's gender, but
never know these days.
Yeah.
It's college is a sham. That's all I have to say. It's interesting. An actual paper. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most of my classes are like that. But and then I was reading the Rate My Professor, and it was just absolutely great. Like everybody was calling her an entrepreneur and stuff.
Oh, you just accidentally.
Sorry, everybody was calling him an
I mean, did I call it or did I call it?
No comment.
I knew it wouldn't last.
Yeah, everybody called them an entrepreneur. We could blank it out. The Cash Flow King's live. I don't care. And then like. I was telling like family members about it, and they're like, "Hey, you should like write an email to the school about it." Other people.
It's accepted practice. Like I heard the same thing happening at the community college near where I lived when I was your age. It's tale as old as time. The college isn't going to do anything about it. In fact, that's one of the things they let them do because like the community colleges don't really pay the professors as much as like a 10-year track 4-year university would. So. Yeah, like it's just one of those things you have to put up with in exchange for having like the cheaper route of community college, unfortunately.
Yeah. It is what it is though.
Yep.
Blake, are you gonna buy Amazon? You're talking about that.
No, I would probably never buy Amazon because they are at a point in their maturity, like in their business life cycle, where finding new revenue is difficult for them. And so unless they continue to innovate with like, AWS type innovations in the future, continue to tangent and spin off these highly successful sub businesses, they will not produce attractive returns. So they're sort of in a situation where they have to continue performing just to maintain comparable returns to the SPY. And as time goes on, I think it's going to become more and more difficult for them to actually do that, especially considering like how much money they're hemorrhaging on their streaming service and stuff. I know there's a lot of upfront costs that go into establishing a library of content, but they could be hemorrhaging that in CapEx for like another decade before they have something comparable to like say Netflix. And
Amazon, always more CapEx.
Yeah. And so unless they continue to spin off, so Manish Prabhai would call them a spawner. They continue to spawn these like new businesses off to the side. Some are successful, some are not. Some are highly successful, but unless they continue to successfully spawn new sub businesses, Amazon is not an attractive investment. So they're sort of in a situation where the second they stumble, they become unattractive, and that's just a matter of time before that happens. So that you will hear Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and Manish Prabhai all talk about the different types of businesses, right? And so there's a certain type of business where the business model is so strong that an idiot can run it, and the business will still do just fine. And Coca-Cola,
Starbucks.
Right. And Coca-Cola is the quintessential example that they all point to that says, not only could an idiot run this company, an idiot has run this company multiple times in the past, and Coca-Cola just does just fine. And the problem with Amazon is what happens when an idiot runs that company? Is it going to do just fine? And the answer is probably not, because it's not a type A business, it's a type B business, or if you want to call them like class 1 or class 2. It requires strong management to do well. And it's going to do well with strong management, but as soon as you put in lackluster, mediocre management in there making poor decisions, Amazon is going to go from a really attractive company to not very attractive at all. And I think that's just a matter of time.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
it's
hey,
like Andy Jassy was on the Bills broadcast the other night. I was all fired up watching it, dude.
it's my second largest holding right now. I don't think we're in any short-term danger of it going into bad management.
Sure.
So, and with the recent pullback, technically, like based on multiple different metrics, it was actually cheaper than it was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think, is it much better and stronger as a business today than it was in 2021? And the financials say it is, yet it's substantially cheaper, like half the valuation. Well, if there is an entry point in the last few years, now is probably, or when it was 160 better, but nowish is just as good as
things have had a chance to renormalize. So pandemic caused Amazon to have amazing, financials there for a little while, right? Because everyone is home, people are just ordering stuff online for many, many months. And then Amazon got this huge boost, and then we've seen their financials renormalize since then. And you're right that buying in 2021 was a bad idea, and buying right now is a much better idea. But I would actually try to be extra picky and ask myself, like, how is it trading on, like, say, EV to EBITDA or price to cash flow versus pre-pandemic, 2018, 2019, 2020? Because even though nowadays it has like this really strong Amazon Web Services, and a couple of other things going for it that it didn't have going for it back then, buying heavily when the real deal shows up is going to do really well for you. But I like you were saying, I don't think they're in any short-term risk of mismanagement. But if you're planning on holding for like 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that is not a class 1 or a type A business. That business requires strong management.
Yeah, definitely think that's fair. And the thing is, if they have strong management for at least the next few years, 10 years from now, what's their profitability going to look like? Like, what is the multiple I'm paying today for what their profit will be 10 years from now? Yeah. It seems like it's probably going to be pretty attractive. Maybe I don't think it's going to 5x or 10x like something like High Tide could, but I think out of the stocks that are presently considered Mag 7, I think it's probably the one with arguably the number 1 or number 2 with the most upside ahead and the lowest risk in the next few years of having like a major collapse. Because if, let's say, like AI turns out to be kind of a bubble, I think Amazon gets hurt less than a couple of the other names. There'll be the sympathy effect where it goes down some, right? But I think their core business isn't as affected by AI being a bit of a bubble compared to what some of the, like a lot of the other ones, they're hanging.
Who gets hurt the most besides Nvidia?
Who does it hurt the
Saying
most?
Apple.
Um,
Apple.
I would say Apple, and I mean, some people
Microsoft.
call Tesla an AI play, so maybe because full
yeah.
self-driving, people are saying that's the ultimate AI.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe
would argue that out of
Microsoft.
all the Mag 7,
Microsoft, yeah.
I think Microsoft has the strongest, most hardest to attack moat. But they're also in a situation where they're, like you were saying, AI sympathy play. They're pushed up, and I think besides Nvidia, Microsoft might see a pretty significant downside if the bubble bursts.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love that. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Then used by the cloud business. It's like,
I mean, they basically have a monopoly on, non-Apple computer software, right? You buy a PC, it comes with Windows. Like there's, unless you're going to teach yourself like, Unix and how to use Ubuntu and stuff like that. And so few people are interested
And
in that.
most large businesses use Microsoft Office Suite enterprise level, and that's X dollars per month per employee that they're paying every single month to Microsoft. And Microsoft bumps that up a couple bucks per person, they'll all keep paying it because they still need their Outlook and their PowerPoint and their Excel and yada yada.
Yeah, we use a lot of Microsoft products. I've realized going from high school to college, we use mainly Google with like Google Chrome and
well, it's funny, where I work, we use Microsoft stuff, but we also use AWS for like a lot of our like backing up a lot of our data and stuff like that. So both companies are used maybe a lot more than people realize.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think they have the strongest moat. I think it's if I wanted to attack Amazon's moat or Apple's moat, I think it would cost less money than trying to attack Microsoft's moat. I think it's so hard to picture a situation where they lose that edge. It would take a catastrophic shift in consumer behavior for that to happen. Yeah.
Well,
and so of all the Mag 7, Microsoft would be the one that I would be the most interested in, but even then, they're large, they're mature. It's hard for them to find new revenue. I'm going to stay down in the small caps and micro caps.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't want to have a lot of Mag 7 stocks because I just think like something bad happens.
You want to turn into Joseph Carlson? Say it how it is.
Well, something bad happens to one of them because of the sympathy. Like all of them seem to take a bit of a hit whenever one of them has something bad happen. So I guess I just picked the one that I think has probably the least AI related sympathy, plus is the most attractive multiple to their operating cash flows compared to like what they're normally at.
Well, it might even have the most attractive growth opportunities, because they spawn off all these new businesses constantly.
They're getting
the question is, the question is what percentage of them are going to be as successful as AWS is.
Oh yeah, and I mean, granted, probably very few, if any. If any. Yeah, AWS could end up just being one of one. They may never have anything that's equally as strong. But I do think
Lena Khan has entered the chat.
I do think though Amazon getting into pharmacy is a huge opportunity because they already have the distribution and everything figured out. They're just like, well, now we're just going to offer this, and they just plug it into what they have. And how many other categories are there where they can do that effectively? I'm sure there's more to come.
Mm-hmm. And they have.
At what point does that stop? And then that's the point at which it's like, okay, now the growth is gonna.
They have the potential for massive amounts of collective bargaining power. Like Amazon could step in and just be like, I want to buy 10 billion instances of this one prescription, and you're going to give me a good deal because I'm buying like 20% of your entire, production for the whole year or something, So
yeah. Yep. Yeah, they can they can very much negotiate hard, and it's sort of like I know Costco has a reputation for that too, where it's like if you want to do business with Costco, you have to do it on Costco's terms, and Amazon can very much do the same thing. They can kind of strong arm suppliers a little bit.
That's actually something High Tide's been accused of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're so dominant in their niche. There are people producers in Canada who cannot seem to get their stuff on High Tide shelves. And so there's been accusations that have been thrown around that High Tide is like operating some kind of pay to play thing where you got to pay me just to get your product on the shelf,
That's
which
actually
apparently breaks Canadian law or something. I think it's kind of, that sounds like normal retail behavior to me.
Yeah.
But
and it doesn't.
Walking more than 300 feet in Canada also is breaking the law. So I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
No,
too
it
surprised.
really doesn't surprise me though, because the biggest comparison I hear people make when they compare High Tide to a more well-known company is they compare it to Costco the most. Yeah.
Well, it's the elite program. It's the discount model, the elite program. You pay an annual fee, then you're an exclusive member of the club, and then you show up and you get these ultra deep discounts. It makes shopping kind of fun.
Hasn't Elite been growing really fast too?
Yeah, much faster than I was expecting. Like much faster than I was expecting this sort of slow rollout where I was going to be disappointed at the growth rate on Elite, and it has been growing. Like I don't have the percentages in front of me right now, but it vastly exceeded my expectations because I had set my expectations pretty low. I'm thinking next quarter, because this quarter was the dip quarter, right? This is the seasonality quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking next quarter revenue is going to Canadian values here. I think in next quarter revenue is going to be somewhere in the like 128 to 133 sort of zone. I think we're going to just barely post positive net income. And I think like levered free cash flow is going to come in between 5 and 10 million. It is possible that last quarter's cash flow margins are the new normal. And it is possible for them to push like, say, 12 million free cash flow. But that would be like above and beyond what my expectations are. It like significantly above. But I'll be super ecstatic. I just anything above 5 million free cash flow is my expectations for that.
So this is like random speculation, but I know last time, I mean, earnings were better than expected last time, I would say. And yet we still had like that random bleed off that happens. Do you think we're going to have the same thing happen this time?
It's happened like the last 12 quarters in a row now. like it goes up into earnings hits. It's all good news. Like there's no bad news here, right? It often beats expectations on multiple metrics. It either beats revenue or it beats cash flow, or it beats elite membership signups. It beats multiple expectations, and then the share price drops like 40% over the next month. Like that happens like over and over and over again. Like I bought shares, I think right before the last roundtable at like 202, 203, 204, and I was real happy. And then like 2 weeks later, it's trading down to like 165. I'm just like, I don't know what to do about this, but be happy about the shares I picked up just above 2. Don't beat yourself up over not getting the best possible prices. And definitely I expect this next quarter to also post really attractive financials, strong fundamentals, and I wouldn't be shocked if the share price tanks. Like,
I'll definitely be like adding, like, if nothing else, maybe another 10% to the position if that happens, just to take advantage of the opportunity, because especially if the earnings is good and there's like an incongruency between how good the earnings are and then what happens after to the price. Like that's very clear mispricing by the market when the earnings is good and the price just drops for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Well, and it seems to happen basically every time. And maybe there's been an exception where it didn't happen, but I sort of remember it happening basically every time. The week or two leading up into earnings, you get a bit of a run up, and then for like 2 to 4 weeks afterwards, it's a bloodbath. But I'm ready for it. I'm here to buy the next bottom when it happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Fiscal, I did say that we would be announcing our episode 50 guest tonight, and well, it's been long anticipated to say the least. And I mean, technically he's been on the show, but technically he's not been.
We would actually like to get him on Brewing Great Returns. We've been talking about him for like many months. Coach and I have been fans of him since he started attacking Meet Kevin like 3.5 years ago. Before I ever met Coach, I started watching this guy's videos.
That person is none other than the big strongman personal finance. So As we can see here, this is Khmer in a gay strip club. Strongman on CFK, the 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern. You're going to want to be there. It's
Yes,
anything will go down. And the goal of the show is just to have Khmer see it. That's the only goal of the entire show. We just want him to see it. We want him to see a part. So get ready. It's gonna be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. Fiscal. This is like
it's gonna
we've
be
had this
good.
booked since literally maybe start of like April, May. Like we've had this booked forever. So
It's been cooking in the background.
It has been. I'm sorry to Echoes from Above. If you're watching this, you got a channel membership today gifted to you. I don't want to hear it. Oh yeah, they by the way, you're all welcome because I didn't know this, but apparently we had 10 free channel memberships that we can give away. So I give 5 away. You're all welcome. You can get access to some exclusive episodes. Strongman may or may not be on some of them. Cooking, you get a bunch of stuff when you're a channel member, which is why you got to become one now.
By the way, was there like ever like a winner on the pancake competition?
I think I won. From what I saw, I remember the polls that I put up during the live show were in favor of me, like 64%. But I could put up another one. Like, should I do one on Twitter and YouTube, or should I just do a general YouTube and just show the results?
I mean, I would do the community page and Twitter. I mean, come on, we got to go hard.
Okay. Yeah, we might need to rethink the next cooking competition instead of a hamburger. Because I'm cutting, dude. What's like a good cutting? Chicken and rice would be boring. Like, what would be a good cutting?
A good cutting. A good cutting. Best protein
I still
shake.
eat like steak and stuff.
Yeah, I always just ate lean chicken and broccoli when I was trying to cut.
I mean, it could be who blends up the best protein shake, buddy.
Yeah. Bananas.
Fairlife, man.
Don't skip on that potassium. You'll get cramps.
Yeah, potassium is important.
Potassium and get your electrolytes in.
And don't try to get below about 8% body fat. Your immune system will take a hit, and you have trouble transitioning energy into and out of blood sugars if you're below 8% body fat.
Yeah, find the Goldilocks mix, everybody. You don't got to be too. You don't got to.
But
be,
I mean, Ryan. I know you're reluctant to do this, but there's nothing wrong with steak on a cut, especially if it's like sirloin.
Oh, I do steak. I do steak every week. I'll tell you my diet right now. Monday, ground beef and pasta after training. Only about not even 2 ounces of pasta, and it's not horrible. I just put the ground beef in meatball form. Steak and a smaller portion of mashed potatoes on Tuesday. Wednesday, we go with Chipotle. Just rice, steak, and chicken. Thursdays, what do we do Thursdays? I don't know. Thursday's kind of a throw-up day. It could be anything. Probably steak or
so. Yeah, I mean, we could do steaks. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, just who the like steak and like say, steak and a side and see who does the. But just be warned. I have a lot of fat.
Yeah.
Of all the condiments, mustard has like no calories. And I always lied to myself and told myself that A1 steak sauce has no calories. It probably does.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it does, but it's not. A1 is actually, it's actually fewer calories in A1 than there is in like regular ketchup. So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
When you wrestle and train and grapple all day, though, you can kind of get away with eating. I don't want to say whatever you want, but you can get away with a lot of stuff. You just burn off so many calories.
If you have a lot of muscle mass and the muscle mass is active, it's like a glucose shuttle. So like you have different rules to play by than somebody who's like basically like skinny fat, basically.
Yeah. And then I have 2 to 3 cheat meals a week, which I try and save for the weekend. It'll be typically pizza. We do a local place. I enjoy a lot of that. A good carb refeed. Hopefully we train in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
Then we do wings and fries one night. And then on Sunday, if the Bills play, my grandpa will make a pizza and I'll have a few slices. But I mean, lucky for me, I can get away with it because I can train, and it's more just bloating, which all you got to do is drink a smart water or two and you'll be fine. Life's good. Well, everybody, it's been a good hour and 37 minutes. It has been fun having Blake on once again. He will be on in 2 weeks for the High Tide Roundtable. We need more people for the High Tide Roundtable, so sign up. Don't be a pansy. We still respect you if you don't sign up, but we respect you even more if you do sign up.
I think Dissector should come on to that.
Dissector should come on. We need to have Dissector on. Thank you all for watching. Blake, where can people find you? I linked your channel and Brewing Great Returns.
YouTube, Brewing Great Returns. You can also find me on Seeking Alpha. And apparently every 3 months or so, you can find me here, including 2 weeks from now, where we're all going to talk about High Tide yet again with brand new data. Monday, new data hits. We'll have almost 2 weeks to digest it, and then we're going to chat again about it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good time. And if it bleeds off again, maybe we'll all have more shares by then, too.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you all for watching. Smash like and subscribe. Send your prayers. Become a channel member. And, of course, do Divin Socks Out Drugs. And, of course, cash flow is king.